Hello and welcome to the UK Table Football Show. Joe, precisely nobody is watching at the moment, but I do. While we wait for people to join us, as we just talk about what we're drinking, because I don't know if you ever listen to the Foosball radio podcast, but for the first 10 minutes of that, Jim Stevens and Tom Robinson just talk about beer.
Yeah.
So we've got out there. Guys, if you're watching, let us know. Joe and I are going to talk about the drinks. Joe, what do you see?
So I'm drinking the Ardbeg. Oh God, I always forget because they do like 4 main of the Ardbegs. The 10 is the most common one, and they've got a couple of the named ones that, unless you're Scottish and you speak like a level of Celtic, you can't pronounce anyway. And you have to be taught how to do it, and I can't remember. It's the one that begins with a U, and I can't remember it. But it's very nice.
Welcome to the UK Whiskey Show with my guest, Joe Jennings-Bundy. Tonight we're going to be reviewing Ardbeg, although I've actually gone rogue. I've got some London pride tonight. At least I'm in London.
Exactly. I do have one London whiskey, so I could get that, although actually I bought that for Alice. So that's not what I helped myself to, from Bimber Distillery that's in North London.
Who's out there watching? We've got 5 people watching, guys. You've got here we go. Right, Mike Russell is out there. Hi, Mike. The Chester Centurions. We have got out there Dave Zeman. Says hello.
And quite frankly, I'm probably more qualified these days to talk about whiskey than I am about table football. But we can do that.
Maybe we've got a well, it's fairly obscure to be into table football, as everyone watching this knows. Gor Avetisian in Armenia. Hi, Gor. Congratulations on some of the tournaments you guys are doing in Armenia. I see just these pictures on Facebook of really professional looking tournaments. I love it. I met the guys in Armenia a couple of years ago, so nice to see you, Gor. Rhys Roberts. Hi, Rhys. And across the street from Rhys, your neighbour, Mr. Cohen is watching as well. Hi, Mike. And we've got someone's given us a thumbs up. We've got a thumbs up from Gor. So where should we start, Joe? Where should we start our show?
Very exciting.
Start with it. Hi, Joe. Joe Jennings-Bundy. Welcome to the show. Who are you, Joe? Why are you here?
So I am Joe Jennings-Bundy, formerly Joe Bundy, which probably I still exist in most Foos things as Joe Bundy, but changed it following getting married a couple of years back now. Because anything to dilute Bundy, not exactly the best surname in the world. So felt a bit weird getting rid of it, but yeah. So I, as with many people in the UK, have been playing our ridiculous game for many, many years, on and off with the BFA committee as well for many years too. But yeah, after a bit of a break from things for a few years, I very much inspired by Will to come back into the fold and let's try to make a legitimate difference in the UK table football scene. So kind of thought let's come here and let's chat about the stuff that we've been chatting about over the last 6-8 months or something now. Maybe.
Well, first I'd like to say on behalf of everybody, but welcome back and thank you for coming back. But let's start. We're going to finish where you are now, but start at the beginning. When did you first touch a foosball table? When did you discover this and discover it was a thing that was going to be a thing in your life?
So, like many of the sort of, 2006 to 10 generation of tournament players, started on a Bryce table in my sixth form, purely because it was 20p and the pool table was 50p and more people wanted to play pool. So it was something that was easy to get on. Me and 3 mates basically spent far too much time back in the days of education maintenance allowance. That I used to go my 30 quid a week. I used to spend a disproportionate amount of that on table football. So, whether that is a supportive argument for reinstating EMA or anything, who knows? Wow. But yeah, so it started on the Bryce tables.
For people who don't know, Jeff Bryce, and we will at some point have a Bryce on. But Jeff, the impact one guy had on British table football is amazing because he put out hundreds of tables in schools, particularly in the west of England. And sixth formers like you got into foosball, and people like Steve Lyle and Chris Lyle and Tom Burdett and Richard Marsh and this whole generation of brilliant players born in about 1986. And it all starts with Jeff. Did you meet Jeff Bryce? Did he come to your school?
Oh yeah, Jeff used to, because we were only down the road, so I was in one of the schools closest to where Jeff lives. So yeah, he used to be around every month, and people would always get us to come play because people, everyone used to gather around when Jeff came in. It was a complete spectacle because it was someone that could play properly, and no one had ever seen anyone that could play properly before. And yeah, we'd always be, like, oh, Joe. Jeff's here, you want to go and play him. And, when I was at school, never beat Jeff at all because we literally never seen how to play against anyone. We played against each other, it was like open-handed push shots and things on a block-foot Garlando that were, terrible, but if you had no concept of how to defend anything. But it was great. He's such a good chap, Jeff, and was so good at getting people in. But, he told me about the British Foosball Association and, told me about the forum and to get myself on there. And ultimately, sort of first tournament I went to was his No Snake Open back in 2006, I'm going to say, because I was still in sixth form. Back then, where, yeah, he made such an effort to get loads of people along. And it's one of those that, quite sadly, not a huge number of students from his schools did go. I think 5 of us went. In the end, I think 2 chaps came up from Gloucester or Bristol or something like that. And then, yeah, me and 2 of my friends went along. And then from there, sort of kept in touch with the table football world, moved up to Liverpool for university, and was contacted by Boris when I think I changed my location to Liverpool. And
so
Boris,
you'd gone to tell us a bit about this No Snake Open. For those, again, who don't know, Jeff Price and the Snake, it's not a thing. Jeff's a proper old school player. So what was your impression like when you turn up in the Barrels pub in Hereford and it's all Garlando tables and there will be FA players there as well? How did the tournament go?
So, I mean, I still remember this because it was absolutely hilarious. The fact that the second we arrived, Jonathan May was at the desk because he had snapped a Garlando handle in half. And this is, it's like, great, we're coming on with people that are, Jonathan May, look at him, massive chap, and yeah, obviously turned up just like snapped a hand in half. I was like, oh great, okay, so this is what we're up against. People that these industrially built tables and they're nothing to them. I just always remember that. It was so funny. But yeah, it was. I can't remember very much of it because I mean, God, it was 2006. So 15 years ago now. I do remember beating Jeff in doubles, but that was because he was playing with his sister, who barely plays, me and my mate Jonathan, for that. But yeah, it was just fun. And Jeff made such an effort to make sure we had a good time. And, he was like buying us drinks and non-alcoholic, of course, because I think we were 17 at the time. But, he just made so much of effort. And it was just a fun atmosphere. And, actually seeing people play what we would class as, the sort of pro game for the first time of people actually, I mean, they were still long spring Garlandos. So all you did is a far wall pass because that was impossible to stop. But still, that's what you, on the 3-bar, you actually saw people do legitimate shots and legitimate defending. And think, so you're actually meant to be there before they shoot. You don't just race. It's not just a competition of who can go fastest, which is what it was when we were in school. And yeah, it was just a really great time, and it was obviously brilliant that because Jeff, obviously it was his job, but it was far more than that to him. He's such a good chap, and he cared about it so much, and just wanted people to get into it and to have fun. And I obviously very much did. That started me off, and and then it all kind of began there and started to meet people, and
Well, I always as I have conversations with people when we do these shows, always trying to take little what do we take, and that exactly what you said. The first time you go to a tournament and it was fun, and the person running it was making sure it was fun and was buying you drinks and was caring for you and making sure that when you went home you thought, when's the next one? I'm going back. And I'm sure some people have heard me say this before. The most important people at any tournament are the people who've never been to a tournament before. If you're a pro, you're the least important person in the room because everyone knows you're coming back. And we're not going to, we don't prioritize the pros. We go and love the guy. We did one on Friday night. Some new person turns up. You just want to love them and make the most fantastic time. And I love, Jeff Price's impact. All those people who keep playing in UK table football and did many years because of the impact of one guy and the way he did it. Great learn. Then you went to go meet the next icon of British foosball, which is Boris.
Yeah, Boris. I was very much helped in that. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you don't get there's scarcely two bigger names in the world of British table football history, quite frankly. But yeah, I said Jeff had pointed me in the way of Brit Foos and the BFA, and signed up with there, and changed my location to Liverpool. I think when I moved up there, and was just contacted by email by Boris of basically saying, well, I'm running this tournament in a month's time or something. So it's my first year of university. He ran the first ever Liverpool Open in that would have been, I think it was January or something, 2007 or something like that. And sort of I remember getting together with him in a, I can't even remember the name of the bar now, but some bar with a Blockfoot Garlando in, just to meet up and have a few games. He's telling me about the tournament, and he was like convinced me to come along to that. And I knew a couple of people. I'd met a few people, at the No Snake tournament, but particularly Sarah Bryce, who she was obviously at the No Snake tournament, but she being a year older than me, and she had a gap year, so she came into my school when I was last year of sixth form there. So I'd met her there with her very goth boyfriend at the time.
So was at your school?
Yeah, so she came down to empty the table and to play things because she was a year older than me, so she was on her gap year before she went off to Keele University when I was still in sixth form. So I kind of knew her, and Boris said she was going to be there, and a few other people I met. So I thought, why not? It's like Boris was like, we can sort you out with partners. Don't worry, there's always someone. That was back in the days when loads of people used to come up from like Warwick, Cambridge, Oxford. So there'd always be random odd people and things going there, and so that was kind of that first proper tournament, as it were.
Again, we talked about Jeff Bryce, but I'm a massive Sarah Bryce fanboy. Sarah is a person on the table that brings the fun. Such a creative way of playing, a killer player as well, and great fun. And I know she's a friend of yours, so you sort of got to know Sarah as well, and that was the.
Yeah, exactly. Sarah is wonderful, and I'm very lucky to have her as one of my dearest friends. She's brilliant people, and that was she was a large part of the reason why I ended up getting so into it, because I think everyone who plays has some reason to. It's some competitive void in our lives, and it does that. It scratches that itch or something we've got into going and actually play and care about playing and wanting to get better. But not everyone, some people just there and want to play. But I think that a large part of the reason why I think so many other people have played so well is the people you meet, and that is always what's kept me in the game and got me traveling around. And I've met so many utterly wonderful people. I think everyone has in the community. You just so many people with so many amazing stories, and just great, and just have some of the most fun times in my life has been through this game that to most people sounds utterly ridiculous. Of whenever I mentioned that I just go traveling around Europe playing in international foosball tournaments. The people we all know the reaction, right? We've all said this, and people have no idea this is an actual thing, but you do it because the people around it, and just pure unadulterated fun and just such good times.
I would say this thing. It's like someone gives you a baby tiger, and it's the cutest little kitten in the world. Oh, look at this baby tiger. Yes, I'll get into table football. And then your tiger grows, and it kind of becomes a more and more a thing. And you're like, crap, do I mean to have a tiger living in my bathroom? That's so you because I met you probably 2011. So you were, I think, as I was lurking on the forum for quite a few years before I met people. Were you like then on the circuit? And you were going around to all the tournaments that they had.
Yeah, pretty much. I'd go to, back, 2008, 2012, sort of that era. There's about tournaments every 6 weeks, I think. And go to basically every single one of them. And, obviously being all poor students that we were, sort of tessellating as many people as we could do in the cheapest hotel in the area, of, you know, even hotels with security of 2 of us going at a time and then chucking the key out of the window, you know, because you're getting like 14 of us in a single Premier Inn room. So, you know, we're all paying like £8 each or something like that. So we could go to so many. And yeah, I think I got, you know, because of Boris, you know, we always lived pretty close to each other. I was always in central Liverpool, you know, so we lived walking distance to each other. And yeah, he kind of got me onto the committee. And, you know, around that time, I started running tournaments and, you know, and doing all these things. Because, yeah, I think we probably met at the at Titch's Isha Lounge.
Titch's Isha Lounge, 2011. That was my first UK tournament. We
Yeah.
got a memory come up from one of our watchers, Mike Russell. I played against Joe and his teammate in the semi-finals of amateur doubles. One of Boris's Liverpool tournaments. It was a really long game, but they ended up beating me and my brother. Do you remember this?
No, I'm sorry, Michael. I have zero. I don't know who I was playing with. I don't know what. Yeah, amateur doubles. Who would I have been playing with at amateur doubles? I can't even remember who my. I was one of those people that kind of ruined things a bit before we had unified table rankings, when it was separate. So you had the Garlando rankings, the Bonzini rankings, the Tornado rankings. So I'm sure I won about like 5 amateur doubles across the table types. And obviously this was corrected later on because, yeah, there was no need to have these things. But there were various players that very much took advantage of that, and, you know, were amateurs in some things longer than they should have been. I mean, certainly, I think
Who are the people who are like your like Mike says then? Who are your partners who you played with, who you came up with? Who did you like battle it out in that amateur doubles and that semi-pro time?
Yeah,
with you.
So I'm trying to think of my sort of common partners. My sort of amateur days. I mean, I remember playing with Rob Kay a couple of times. Lovely chap who's from Hereford as well. You know, I think he lives in Bristol these days. But mainly, for a lot of the time, my partners when I was at sort of amateur, semi-pro level were Rich Potts and Sarah Bryce. We used to play together an awful lot, many tournaments, and, you know, won various handfuls of semi-pro doubles and, you know, all sorts of things over the years. But then this was, you know, still times when they were very, very good players. I mean, it's almost harder to say now of who did you play with, who were the regular things, because, I mean, I was semi-pro for years. You know, we were sort of all in a bit of a group, but then the average tournament would have 50 semi-pro ranked players, you know, if you've got a decent-sized tournament. So it was all really varied, you know. If I went over the results list, there'd be loads of names in there. Oh, God, I remember them and that. And, you know, Sarah Rich and, yeah, okay, played with like Graham Addison a couple of times, who's another really great chap. And, yeah, I guess...
Great to see Richard Potts back the other day at the rugby tournament. He just suddenly walked into the room with long hair and a beard, and still had lots of game about him. That was someone's been away for a long, probably 10 years. He's been away,
something like that. Yeah, but you never forget it, do you? I think you've always got something in there. But yeah, going back in terms of who do I remember like facing events competitively, probably like the most person I did was Lukasz Bitsky. I don't know if you ever met him.
Before my time.
Great chap. And yeah, we were sort of at high-end semi-pro, low-end pro, hovering around there for years when the tournaments were regular and high turnout. So yeah, I do remember plenty of games against him in that kind of bracket. But again, these were things where, you know, the semi-pro events were the main events, were events I basically turned up for, because, you know, open events, you know, even though it was standard DE, I'd never go that deep into them. Usually, you know, there were far too many far better players than me. But, you know, across semi-pro and against, you know, the handicap events, and there used to be so many events at tournaments, it was ridiculous. But, you know, these were big events. These were events that, you know, have more people in semi-pro singles than we do at the average UK tournament these days. And I think that was the wonder of it, that, you know, there were so many, you're meeting new people all the time, and loads of people would quickly get up to that level. They'd be around for a bit, and then, like so many others, you kind of, things go up in life, and then you sort of drift out of the game.
What for you? Because there's a reason why amateur, semi-pro, pro, they've got different names, because a pro should be to semi-pro, a semi-pro should be an amateur. So how did you then break through from that sort of morass of 50 people semi-pro, everyone's got a 3-bar but doesn't have a 5-bar, and suddenly you're up, you've got through the next ceiling? What do you remember that happening, and how did it happen?
So it is basically as a result of Sarah. So her and Rich, who were together for quite a few years, broke up, and she basically not quite lived at mine, but spent an awful lot of time around mine whenever, because she took over from Jeff, running the business, after she finished university. So, she was all over the country. So if she was anywhere vaguely north, she'd come and stay at my place in Liverpool. I had, I think through Boris, and I think I bought one of them, I'd always at least one table in my Tornado Garlando. I had my Tornado for quite a few years. And yeah, Sarah would, every 2 months, she'd be at mine for 3 weeks. We'd stay. And, we just played a lot together. And it was the first time I'd ever really, because, Boris had taught me a lot, and, we'd go around, but Boris and I never played, to the same extent as, Sarah was just staying around mine. We'd be up till, we were both in our early 20s, you'd just be up to the early hours just having drinks and playing. And it was just sort of, we kept doing so much of it that we just then started to constantly sort of like one-up each other in that. And then you start learning new things because, tournaments for us were mainly just going and having fun, which is why, we were that sort of level for years. But I think we just spent so much time practicing together that it was like, we just naturally got a bit better. And then we pushed up to sort of pro level. And then I think once you hit a certain point, things start to click a bit more, and you start to actually think about the game, not just, there's that moment of, I think, the biggest switches between sort of semi-pro to pro is when you stop thinking about the execution of what you're doing, and you start thinking about why you're doing it and what you should actually be doing, and the focus moves, and then you actually start reading the game properly. You start to think about strategies, and then, and that got really fun for me, I think. I think that's the point where it kind of switched from just going and silly drinking games to still going and silly drinking games, but in the, this is actually quite engaging. There are very good people, and I can beat them, or I can, be competitive with them, and I can start to see how they're thinking. Your game starts becoming so one-dimensional. So yeah, it was obviously as upsetting it was at the time for Sarah, although obviously things have worked out for her now with the lovely chat she's with Steve, and their lovely cottage in Herefordshire that they've bought recently. Out of something that, was very upsetting for her at the time, kind of came both of us quite jumping up in ability.
And then before you then, you've never been a pro master, though. In my mind, you've done Team GB, you've qualified for the World, so you have done that next level. You've done the pro jump into sort of the top echelon. What was the difference how did that then happen? Because you suddenly start winning things and or getting the top 3, and
yeah, I mean, I think it's just one of the things that just came. I think, you start to take things, as I said, start to take things a little bit more seriously when you're playing. You start to think about things. You actually start to legitimately learn from players. I was, very lucky to start playing with the likes of Dave Z in here and Steve, and you learn an awful lot from playing with players like that. It's hard at times. I certainly remember playing with Steve, and he absolutely holding him back in tournaments because I was at a ceiling of what I could do. But you learn so much about the game, and you just start to, pick things up. And it's like anything in life. There is a degree of talent involved, but it's about how much practice do you put in, how much do you actually want to get better. That is how you get good at anything. I mean, the first year I properly started playing, so around 2007, I started, the first Liverpool Open, and then Ben Mason ran a tournament in Hereford when I was back for student holidays, and then Rob Davey ran one in Bristol, Dave Oates potentially, I can't remember who actually ran it, and that wasn't too far down the road from me, and it was again summer holidays, so I was in Hereford, so it was just down there. I was statistically the worst player in the tour in both singles and doubles, at that time, I was terrible, absolutely terrible for the pro game. I barely understood it, but you know, you kind of keep doing it. I bought, you know, my first table when I was still, you know, before university, still living at home, and that table stayed, you know, at my mum's. So I would go down and practice more as students on holidays, and you're picking these things up, and you know, you see people shoot a snake, and it's like, well, you know, how do I stop that? How do I learn to do it? And then you start building things up, and then you kind of, get the game, and it's just practice, but it's the right kind of practice of, if you play, you know, you could be semi-pro rank and just doing the same things over and over and over again, and you'll never get better. It's that playing with and playing against the better people and starting to critically think, okay, why am I losing this? Why are they beating me? You know, it's table football. It's not, you know, it's not saying, you know, it's a finite game. It's there. You've got the same men, same ball, you know, it's all there. It's not like there's an infinite number of things that anyone can do. It's, you know, it's but starting to realize how and why people are making the moves that they are, and picking that up.
I'm thinking about when I played you in singles, and sort of just remembering your own journey from me having played against you. I played against you a Garlando tournament in Coventry, kind of like 2012, 2013, and I remember. You know, I haven't beaten you in singles, but I kind of got close enough. It was probably like 1-1 and 4-4 in the third game, and then you were probably beating yourself up a little bit at that point.
Yeah,
because that was a thing you'd be doing. You'd be hard on yourself, and then you went away and won it. And then a few years later, I played you in the Leonhardt tournaments in Cheltenham, and that had gone away, and you just got this phenomenal 2-bar shot from the back, and I just remember that you just said, every time you said it, I was like, crap. I don't know, move the zone around, it doesn't matter. Bang! And you've got that was, and you kind of, you could see that you'd gone to that next level, that self doubt had gone, and you just got, you knew how to apply yourself.
Yeah, no, it was, and you know, I think these are the things you get when you're, you know, growing up, as it were. You know, I started playing in my, you know, teenage years and really active in my early 20s, when, you know, you're just a silly kid in so many ways at that age. And I was far too overly competitive, and, you know, would absolutely beat myself up and things. And and it's, I think, you know, I seem to remember a conversation with Mike Amston, who's always one of those very, very cool and collected players, about, you know, you watch Mike, and, you know, when he's playing, if someone does something good, Mike just nods and be like, yeah, that's fair enough, but I'm probably going to try to stop it next time because I've just learned what you do now. And it's that sort of approach. And I think, you know, watching Mike and chatting with him, I remember that was kind of the, okay, let's not get, and, you know, you still do, everyone still does get a bit frustrated at times. And, you know, particularly because it's a game that, you know, luck can really go against you sometimes. Just everything falls to their 3-bar and everything. And, you know, and it's a bit like, you know, particularly shorter formats. But, you know, overall, it's something that, I probably got better at as the years go on. I think generally most players who, as they get better, have to get better at that. I think that's something that does give you somewhat of a ceiling if you never quite get over the beating yourself up.
I think it's really interesting because, of course, we all do know that, because we do have some of the people watching out there of the seniors, some things don't go away. No. And, you know, sometimes you can't control your emotions, no matter how old you are. And I think sometimes the younger players are fearless. In the way, as you get older, I was reflecting on something the other day, like, why would I bottle that? And I wouldn't used to bottle it in the past, but somehow this little bit of self-doubt comes in. Dave Zeman has a memory for you, which I think is nice.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I remember that one as well, which it's potentially even this photo for this thing you put up was taken from maybe that event. Because, I remember, because we beat Steve and Chris in the seventh. No, it wouldn't have been single elimination. Well, we must have played them in the losers final, I'm guessing. Or maybe it was the winners final. No, I don't think we were double dipped in the final. I think Nubber and Rich beat us just in one set there. But I remember playing that, and that was like one of the first times I was playing up front and beating very good people, like not through, you know, like an occasional fluky game. It was, you know, I could actually pass and I could block their 5-bar in parts and I could score fairly consistently. And, you know, that you know, it's games like that develop a player, because, you know, playing with Dave, who I always love playing with Dave, because he's so intelligent, knows so much, and very good at telling me, giving me pieces of advice, but also very trusting. I think, you sometimes play with top players, when you get it, your opponent's got it on the 3-bar, they take a timeout, and then, if there's a higher ranked player, quite often they switch, and it's like, you've got a timeout in your 3, and the better player goes up front. I remember with Dave with that, and it's just like, me at points being a bit like, I've missed the last 3-4 shots. Do you want to take it? And Dave was being, no, you take it. How many goals have you scored so far in this tournament? Like, you're fine. And that really helps, because you need things like that. It's just the sort of confidence. So, yeah. And, I remember playing some very difficult games against I remember playing Vesti with, I can't remember who her partner was of that. And I just remember her, because, Vesti, she's like extreme aggression on the table of just relentless, and it's that there is no breathing space, and she's so aggressive and coming through matches like that. So I know, and it's just like, it's, at that point it was okay. Yeah, I can kind of play this game, after being around for a while. And, and that's, one of the things that became really fun about the game is when you do, and, even though being disappointed, losing, but it's like, you got to a final of a tournament with very, very good players there legitimately. And that's a nice thing when you've got people that, when I first started were already light years ahead of me. Steve and that generation were only sort of 2 years older than me. But by that point, because of Warwick, because of the nature of the society we had there, Steve was already pro master, by the time I was amateur, in the thing there. So that was that was a good tournament.
And then you went. So you talk about overseas. You've played overseas. I know I've seen you overseas. Where have you been? How did you do? What was your Joe on the road story?
I mean, it was largely initially came from Boris encouraging me of like, I'm going to this. So I think my first ever international tournament was Tech Ball Worlds, outside of it was in the Netherlands. And it was one of those, in a centre parks in kind of the middle of nowhere, where, as in Boris style, we drove from Liverpool to Dover, the Dover to Calais ferry, and then Calais to, that was relatively short. It was the, journey from that, but Boris, we drove to Nantes, in a sort of a 16-hour journey that took all the time. And I think that was just myself, Boris, Jody, and Nubbert went to that. But it's just Boris like, go on, do you want to go do this? And then you start meeting really fun people, at these tournaments. The likes of, Divi Amtashla. If you ever met her, she's, again, one of my dearest friends and wonderful people. And, you then start to, go away and, all the Lithuanian crowd, things like I'd go to Switzerland, I go to Lithuania on my own, eventually, because it's like, well, I know people there, I can stay with them, I can, go off. And so, it became an increasingly regular thing of at least a couple of times a year. Myself and usually Boris would usually go off together, would go off to some tournament somewhere around. And, it's like Roberto Sport Worlds early on in, was it Giabaschi, Italian Switzerland, where it was a really fun crowd. Because again, it was like myself, John Worthington, Mike Amston, Dave Morgan, can't remember who else. And we flew to Geneva because Dave Morgan was actually working there. He was doing some business with Geneva University. And then we drove from Geneva all the way across Switzerland to this middle of nowhere, beautiful place there, where hilariously I ended up winning one of the DYPs because some very, very good player had done something like got too drunk the previous night, overslept. So it was in one of those no conflict DYPs where I can't even remember the chap's name, but he just missed open singles, so thought I'd rock up for the DYP and then played with him, and we still won. It was hilarious. And then
googling it to try and find out who it is, but I tried to.
It would have been like 2008 Roberto Sport Worlds or something like that. 2009.
Well, I mean, you and I were overseas at Leonhardt Worlds in the Centre Parks. I think we were there to get that one. I think I've been at a Bonzini tournament with you as well. Bonzini's always different. It's so cool traveling overseas. I haven't done it recently for obvious reasons. I just miss it, and it's just a great experience because we've got this family inside the UK that you go and discover you got this other family out in the world. Have you done the States as well? Or have you just travelled in Europe?
No, I never did the States. It was always, obviously quite a bit more expensive. So my options were: do I do one States tournament or do I do 4 or 5? Continental Europe, because a lot of the time I'd stay with people I knew and would even have to pay for hotels. You're getting a £30 Ryanair flight and you go out. So I'd sort of use holiday time and the money I had to do that. So, but maybe at some point it would still be on my list. I would like to go over to the States and play, but it's almost a bit of a shame that their major tournaments are in Vegas and Dallas, that, it'd be, I'd have to, find some other excuse to travel across, go somewhere more interesting. No offense to anyone from Vegas or Dallas, but
you have done well. You've done World Cups. You've been as a fan to World Cups, and you've played in Team GB as well. So where have you been? How's that been?
So yeah, I think I went along like as coach or whatever the city phrase was, basically sorting the admin out. And back in like 2012 or 2013.
Don't knock coaches.
Yeah.
Don't knock coaches.
Well, exactly. But, there are legitimate coaches, and there are, obviously, when I was still like semi-pro or low pro with a team encompassing the likes of Rob Ather and everyone else, and Judge and Joe, and very, very good players, I could contribute nothing. I'm sure you could contribute legitimate things with the senior team.
My seniors, mostly jokes, but no, Eddie's there. You don't need to do the jokes.
Exactly. You need to. Well, I'm sure your time would have been spent trying to reel in Eddie and avoid some sort of diplomatic incidents across. But yeah, so it started there just for the fun of it, because you go away and it'd be a chance that all the great people I'd met across the world, everyone would be there. So, it was a good tournament. And yeah, then I think the first World Cup I started playing in, I think I largely got picked on the back of my Bonzini game, because, it's a table that not many people in the UK play. So yeah, my first World Cup in Turin, I only played the Bonzini match leg there, and I played with Mike against Maxine, and I can't remember who his partner was, but that was the era when it was like first to 5 but win by 3 clear on each table, quite short format. So I think we won like 8-6 on Tornado, and with me up front of Bonzini we lost like 8-6 or something, or 8-7. It was pretty close of the fact that
the UK when you've got Maxine Blum the other end.
Yeah, exactly. He's obviously a terrific player, but I think that was still early enough along that that people on Bonzini players hadn't played a huge amount of pull shot, and I could shoot a pull shot on Bonzini. My 5-bar was never fantastic, but a lot of time you can get it through, and yeah. So that's kind of how I
we have got a kick-ass pull shot. It's phenomenal. We were playing the other day, and it's still a really, really good pull shot. How did you learn to do a pull shot? Who taught you? When did it happen?
I think it's a combination of things. I think in part it was semi-boredom of just shooting snake all the time, and and then you kind of want to do something else, and I dabbled in a few things. You try a pin shot, and my pin shot was just never good enough, and it was never quite working out. And then pull shot, I think I just found that in all the multi-table tournaments we used to have in the UK, because every year we'd have we'd have like a Bonzini tournament, we'd also have Tornado and Garlando, and then Fireball and the Leonhardt at points, and a pull shot you can shoot on any of those tables, particularly when Garlando had the older, I know they changed their balls so often, but when they had a heavy ball, it was a very good table to pull shoot on. And I remember shooting a lot of pull shots with their older ball. And I think it was just that. I think it was another shot, generally helps that people weren't great at defending it. I think when 95% of people shoot a snake shot, you get very used to defending a snake shot. My pull shot's never been, I still don't think it's great. It's technically fine, but my reading isn't that strong with it. But there is just a real gap in knowledge of how to legitimately defend a pull shot. And
I think if you've got a big boom, you've got a big, fast, powerful lob, which you've got, it's almost it's half of the psychological battle, because people are like, wow, Well, how do I? Well, you stop it by putting a player there all the time and see if they shoot middles, or can they take a straight ever? But it's quite intimidating.
Exactly, I think that is, and it's one of the reasons why that I do, because particularly, I don't know if it's just me thinking that, but with something like a pull shot, with a snake, the ball's in the middle of the table, so you feel that, well, it's barely moving either side. And with a pull shot, I always felt when I was defending a pull, the goal felt more open because the ball is far on one side, and then all of a sudden you're looking, it's the same spacings, nothing changes, but you feel that. Yeah, so, obviously I've got advice from lots of players. Like Steve had a spell of shooting exclusively pull shot for a few years. Obviously, things like Rob, Rob taught me a huge amount about defending a pull shot, which then helps you with the mentality of shooting it. Like Rob's approach, obviously, it's not a generic approach because he will approach every single match differently and these things. But, what he always told me with most things is kind of just time and race the straight with most people. And that's generally how I'll defend it. I'll spend a lot of time in the long and the middle. And because most players, the straight feels easy, so most people want to read it for a little bit longer and you can get a bit of a better feel on it. And I think kind of that's the general approach I've had when shooting it as well. It's the knowing that most people want to stick to the straight and the straight to open less often generally. So, you can hit those longs and those middles more often. But again, that's a horrible generic thing and it'll vary match to match. But yeah, I just enjoyed shooting pull shot more. And I think that then, so I could do that on Bonzini. And obviously, Bonzini, the snake is such a wildly different technique, particularly when you're switching multi-table, that it was something we were never great at the UK was switching to Bonzini, because it was all a bit like, well, let's just try our best and kind of make it up as you go along. But there was never a huge amount of confidence. But I was always pretty confident of scoring on Bonzini once I got it on my 3-bar.
And so you got picked for Team GB as the Bonzini. So that's World Cup is, I'm trying to think of my years. So
2015, probably.
In Turin, 2015. Yeah. And did you qualified as well? You've played in the World Championships.
Yes, so for 2017, qualified in. So in 2015, I qualified in doubles because I played with Rob. Because I presume that I think that was the case of Joe Hamilton couldn't make it or something. So Rob was just like, "I'll play with anyone," and I think probably Boris talked him into playing with me, maybe. But yeah, for 2017, qualified, finished in the top 3 of the UKC in singles and doubles. I was playing with Alex Salantai in doubles, but then he either, I remember, couldn't make it or didn't want to go or whatever. So I played with Jonathan May, who finished him and Mike finished, I think, 5th or 4th or whatever it was, just below us. I think that was kind of like that sort of late 2016, early 2017 was probably my peak of ability. I was living with Steve at the time. We were living at our place in Wapping in London, and we were obviously playing an awful lot, and I think on all tables I was pretty happy and very much into it. For that, so
those World Championships, the one with Jonathan May, the one with Rob, and singles as well. Do you remember what was it like playing the highest level?
So I kind of, semi been there before. I mean, actually, not long before the tournament, I basically made the mistake of I way over practiced, and I badly hurt my right forearm beforehand. I was basically OD'd on painkillers throughout that entire tournament, just because I could get, I don't know what it was. I did like the tendon in my forearm or something, basically at bar kick, because I spent hours and hours there hammering pull shots on the Bonzini, because I still knew that I was still generally going to be, if there was a Bonzini match, then I was going to be playing up front and I was going to be playing in some of the key matches there. And a few days before I badly hurt it. I thought, oh, well, it's okay, go to a day's rest, and then started playing, and then something snapped, and it was just like, God. So, I basically was just like getting through tubes of ibuprofen gel while taking way more paracetamol and things that I could. And I even got some like codamol or someone as well, and was just like, well, look, it's 5 days. It's let's just keep. So I did not play. I mean, I played fine. I mean, in singles and doubles, made it through the group stage in both, and I think went out in the first round in doubles. And I think I did win one round in singles, and then lost to a Canadian player. And I cannot remember who myself and Jonathan lost against. We beat some good players. We beat some of the Luxembourg players in the group stage and things. So,
any of the Luxembourg players is because they're all outstanding. It doesn't really matter which one.
Yeah, it was very, very good people. But it's 1 to 7 matches. So it's a cruel format. Sometimes, you get a couple of goals going your way and they miss 1 or 2 passes and then that's match over, at that level. So, yeah, I never played. But that was the point where, that tournament kind of, I wouldn't say killed, but maybe really dampened my love for the game because there were so many unpleasant matches. It was just that hyper competitiveness of, people obviously cheating and, multiple players, refused to shake my hand after matches just because they were so annoyed at losing, even in matches where I wasn't calling fouls or anything against them. It was just that they were annoyed to lose at someone like me because I've never had the best technical game. I'm not there's thousands of players who are technically better than me. But, particularly when I was matched against this, I think it was the first knockout round in singles against this German player, some 19, 20-year-old, very, very good. And generally players like that play the same way. They're young. They just want to go as long as possible, as fast as possible, all the time. They don't really think things. You can bait them into stuff so much easier. So with my relatively mundane, basic, brush snake series, I ended up beating it. And he was just livid and furious. And it's just like, and I think that was also at the time where, in my life, I'd moved to London, but I switched from my previous corporate job into a quite an entry-level charity job position. I was living in London, but being paid like $24,000 a year, which, people in London know is practically, not the, I basically was in a lucky position. I had myself to look after and I'd had savings from, my job in Liverpool, but I was burning through those. And I think it was that I paid something like, £700-800 to be away in Hamburg for the week. Steve, that was his first time as captain, I believe. And perfectly legitimately just wanted to take things very seriously. So it was like, can we not drink? Can we try to go to bed early? And things like that. And there's pros and cons to it. But that was an absolutely perfectly legitimate thing because, you see the very serious teams. The British would be drinking, but, the people winning things wouldn't be up at 2 a.m. drinking with us. So, he was not wrong to make that decision.
No, you're right.
But when I was facing against lots of angry games against people, I'm spending money that I didn't have a huge amount of. It was beyond my means to be there at the time, and I just didn't have any fun. Really, and then it was sort of just thinking of why on earth am I doing this? Is it your Green Tiger analogy of sometimes it gets out of control and then it just becomes unpleasant. I just remember there if I was at that point I was just like I need a break. It was just like why am I and again it was just I got into it for all the fun and the fun had just gone. It was just very serious and I was never good enough to legitimately have an impact on that sort of world stage. I think that, I've won plenty of knockout rounds and world championships and, got through to last 32, bunch of occasions and, deeper in other events, things like that. I've beaten very good players, world-class players at points, but I never had the ability to do that consistently. I was never going to be featuring in a podium at that level. So it's kind of like, well, if I'm just here doing this level, I just didn't have that much love for it. And it was just basically a perfect storm of things to put me off the game. So, from that kind of point, and that was the last time I took football seriously, the last time I practiced, the last time I really thought about things and prepared beforehand, since I came onto a couple of your tournaments, end of 2019, early 2020, after sort of a 2.5 year break of not playing at all. 2019 was because Sam Dawkins asked me to play with him, and he's a very good friend of mine. I said, go on, I'll play with you. Let's have fun. And that was more fun because, I go in and play, but still, I don't think I'm ever going to be as good as I was in 2016.
I think there are. I mean, I did want to talk about this a bit because I think there's loads of for all of us listening. Going back to that tiger, got the beautiful little kitten that someone gave you, and you walked into a tournament with Jeff Bryce, and it was lovely, and his game was cool, and everyone's friendly. And we all know, and I think your story is actually sometimes just if it isn't fun, because people can take it so seriously, because everyone at that high level has invested the money and the time and their own self. Am I spending my life in a good way? Is that your own self-worth is invested in this game to 7, and it hurts to lose you. And so I was thinking that when the fun stops, stop. That's the thing they say in gambling, right? And it's entirely the right thing. So what, my tiger's got too big, and this is not what I need to breathe. I need to, and you see people do that in foosball. They go, a lot of those golden generation of 1986, they've all gone away and they've got married and they've got kids, and some people come back and a lot of people don't. But it's okay. I like it that you then. Sam called you up and said, come along and play, and you were open to doing it. And actually, one of the things you said to me, one of those, because I did 2 tournaments at Barnet, 2019, pre-pandemic. And after the first one, you said to me, Will, Saturday night DYP is not the right thing to do, because the UK national sport on a Saturday night is 2-ball rollerball. Then the next tournament we did in March 2020, we did a 2-ball rollerball tournament, which went off. And we're doing 2-ball rollerball at the UKC because I discovered that and that's kind of got that DNA of that loopy. There's a loopy fun in UK tournaments. There's a kind of wackiness that I don't see in other countries' tournaments, which is that sort of that Sarah Bryce way of playing.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do tic tac boom, and it's I'm not taking 15 seconds here and 10 seconds there, and it's how do we keep that DNA in the way we do foosball in the future. So when people come in, it's fun, and when they play, it's crazy and fun, and we've got that 2-ball rollerball wackiness that people want to come back for, and it doesn't get too horrible and serious.
No, exactly. And 2-ball has been that, because you can just be so silly. There's a in fact, at the Isha Lounge tournament, the first tournament we met, Sarah and I played that, and at some point we were just like, okay, well, you have the goalie in midfield, I'll have the 2-bar and the 3-bar. And that's just how we played for several matches in a ridiculous thing, because it was just it's just stupid and silly, and we were drunk, and it's like, let's go have fun. And, I'm not going to say who it was, but through laughter, once made someone actually legitimately slightly wet themselves at a tournament in Coventry while playing 2-ball, because it was so stupid. And the match took forever, but it was just fun, proper fun. And it's one of those things of ability kind of gets wiped out a bit, and obviously there's the sensible players like Dave, who won't drink and will usually win a 2-ball with Andrew Nubbets because they're sober and they can still play. But but that it's not a problem. It's not like that is a bad thing. It's that everyone is having fun and is relaxed, and that's why people play this. It's a passion game. We've all invested so much time and money. Tournaments are expensive, and at the rate they currently are, because right now, and has always been the case, you might have one proper tournament in your home city a year. So if you wanted to actively play, you had to travel. Everyone knows how bloody expensive British trains are. You then had to get a hotel. You then had to pay entry fees. And we something that I never really agreed with, but really got into it because, pro voices were often the loudest voices of entry fees kept getting higher and higher and higher. And, I remember going to one of those Gloucester tournaments I think the highest ever in the UK was one of the Bristol ones that Ben Mason ran in that holiday park outside of Bristol. And it was something like £120 entry fee I paid playing everything. And it's just I think, I did well enough to win money back from it, but not everyone's going to do that. And then it became you're spending £600 plus for a weekend. For, you do it because you love it, and you do it because you love the people around, and it's the enjoyment you get from it. And that's why people play. And that's why, which I'm sure will segue on to other things you want to talk about. But, this is what, I very strongly feel we need to get back into, that the focus needs to be on fun. And there is that blend of competitive and fun, but we've shifted, I think, too far away and gone into that. very competitive
have
side.
set it up very nicely, I think, for where we can kind of take the conversation now, which is a little bit towards looking to the future of what we, and I don't mean we like you and me, but we collectively. And actually, before I do that, let's just a few shout outs to people. We've got a few people out there who hello to Louise Tanju. Hi Louise, looking good, Joe. Calcio Balilla Paraschos. That's Italian Calcio Balilla, and bien joué, frère. Well played, brother. Reece Roberts is bringing the news that Thomas Haas won Open Singles. This is the Munster tournament. A little segue there. This great big ITSF Master Series taking place in Germany. Rob Ather and Thomas Haas won Open Doubles last night. In fact, a bit later on, we might watch a bit of it on Twitch because it's still there. And Steve Lyle taking, I think, 5th place, losing to Thomas Haas, and Rich Marsh doing pretty well as well. Man Arslan, I think, came 3rd in the semi-pro level knockout. So great UK players representing really well. Thanks, Reece, for that hot news. Who else do we have out there? We've got Ben Williamson's given us a like. Hi, Ben. Nice to see you out there. Claudia Polimeni, Paddy Dunleavy, Buffalo Foosball. That's Matt McCrory in Buffalo. Richard Bindloss. And Casper Polaris Mo, great supporter, came to our Barnet Tornado tournament. Hi, Casper. Nice to see you out there. Right, so let's do a bit of so where we're. I mean, you were just talking, Joe, about the accessibility issue, because you just mentioned some things that prevent people from taking up foosball and going to play foosball. Number one, it's not where I live, which is, if your tournaments are in London and I live in Glasgow, I'm not going to go. If it's in Edinburgh and I'm in Glasgow, I might go. So how do we have foosball which is local to people? Money. Your tournament's 120, and you're doing a double elimination, and I'm a beginner. Sorry, no. Whereas that one in Edinburgh, and it's 25 quid for the weekend. Yeah, me and my mates are coming. So and it's fun, by the way. And Jeff Bryce is going to welcome us and buy us a few drinks and make sure we have a great time. And we're doing 2-ball rollerball. So this whole philosophy, and we've got lots of ideas. So let me do my little bit of BFA land for all those guys who are listening out there, and just kind of a bit of a reminder as well what we've done at the moment. So firstly, we have just incorporated the British Foosball Association as a company, as a not-for-profit company. So in the past, the BFA has always been an unincorporated association, the formality of a pub football team, and now we've actually got a proper company. And the way the company works, we need to have members. We have company members. Those are people who get to vote in appointing the directors in exchange for saying, I guarantee the liabilities of the company for £10. We've nicked the constitution of Table Tennis England and Badminton England to do it. So that's our new legal entity that we've got. And we're going to move to that next year, provided everyone supports it and signs up for it, which everyone is doing so at the moment. So if you haven't voted, if you're a member and you've had the email, please do so. That's my blurb bit. What that's enabled us to do is we have just signed a contract, because we can sign contracts. We've now got a new company with Ransom Sporting Goods, which is one of the UK's leading suppliers of sports equipment, particularly to schools. So Roberto Sport is now the official partner of the British Foosball Association, which is really cool. Not only are they our official partner, they're going to have a load of tables sitting in their warehouse in Middlesbrough, which they're going to store for free and make available for us to use in our tournaments. And if you go to the British Foosball Association, britfoos.com website, you'll see we now have an online shop. We're promoting, or we're not selling, they're selling through our website, a whole range of tables, from Diddy beginner tables all the way through to the Roberto Sport Revolution table, and wraps and balls and lube, and we're getting a light, and we're talking about kit and so on. So we've got a proper big grown-up partner, and it sets us up to do. If Edinburgh calls up and says we want to do a tournament in Edinburgh, need 4 tables, then you can ship them up to Edinburgh. So, I mean, that's Joe. You've seen us put this together. From your perspective, be interested to see what you think of the structural bit we've set up.
Yeah. So, I slightly touched upon earlier in that, I've rejoined the committee not from a pro focus as I probably was in my first spells in the committee, but it's joined because table football is brilliant fundamentally. It is. We all do this because we've had years of fun and playing with, and it's the opportunity to open that up, because it is a game that is so accessible. You know, it really is that, you know, you get a table in a relatively small space, and that's, you know, so that 20 people can get involved in, you know, more over the course of a night. Anyone can play, you know. It always like go to the barrels, you know, you know, obviously get, you know, older massive guys will be playing, and then, you know, Sarah and, you know, her sister Amy, who was even shorter than Sarah, Amy at like 4'11", would go up and heavily beat these people, and, you know, it's so accessible. So, you know, and it's something that you have to think of how much fun I've had and how much I've got out of the game over, you know, 15 years or so of playing. And it's like, right, well, how do we get more people to do that? And this structure, this new thing is the way to do that. You know, I think that we, you know, the BFA did many good things. And at the core of it, everyone that's involved always meant their best. Absolutely. I would never question the motivations or the desire or anyone that was ever on the committee. But I think, you know, hindsight's 2020 in some cases. I think that, you know, there was a coasting because we had Warwick University, Cambridge University, and, you know, at Oxford as well, and then Keele, and then Bath for a bit. And we had all the Jeff schools, and, you know, people were just coming through without any effort whatsoever. And it was maybe felt that that golden age would carry on forever, which it hasn't. You know, and again, I think it's in part because we got that golden generation. You know, the standard leapt up, you know, from those there in this called, you know, will remember the game in, you know, the, you know, 70s and 80s, maybe heyday, you know, or even like then go through the 90s and 2000s, you look at things. So then, but you look at it now, you look at since the likes of Rob Ather came along and dragged the standard up, you know, and I think it just became so the gap between a pro player and a brand new player became too big, you know, and then all the university scenes died, and no one had made any steps to try to correct that. And, you know, we were at the point where we used to have, you know, 400 annually active players in tournaments to now it's, you know, 50, 60, maybe, you know.
I think we've got 60 members of the BFA this year. That's in people who actually paid their membership. Yeah,
so, you know, it's quite a shift, and this new structure is exactly what is needed. It's a completely different approach, but it's one point where you absolutely need some different approach, and it's, you know, a way that, yeah, this new structure, we can sign contracts and we can actually do things. We're not just an amateur community group anymore. We are a company limited by guarantee, that we can do deals with Ransom Sport, and we can get the tables in, and that gives us options to do things. You know, we now have tables that can be used in tournaments. We have now the BFA's Roberto Sports, and we have your Tornadoes. Well, BFA, you know, you give us access to. And it means that then we have now 10 Garlandos that we can start doing stuff with. So, you know, so Cat up in Rugby now has a couple of our tables for the next, until the UKC, out in, you know, in venues.
She's got a shopping centre at the moment.
Yeah.
And the shopping centre love it. And she's doing a tournament in the shopping centre a little bit later, which is, that's what we, you know, it's frankly daft that we've got our table sitting in the shipping container here when we should have them out and have people playing on.
Exactly. But this is
something, I was saying something the other day, the strategy, inverted commas, of the BFA is dead simple. We just copy everything the Germans and the French do, because the Germans have got 400 clubs. The French have got 100 clubs, but I remember speaking to Farid Lunas, and Farid said, you know, when I started the French Federation, we had 50 players. That's, you know, we all think France is 100 clubs now, but they started like us. I spoke to Klaus Gotteslieben. There are 1,000 people playing foosball in Hamburg every week. And he said when Hamburg used to be 10 guys playing for money, and no one else could play because the guys playing for money were too good and they scared everyone else away. So this community focus, and I'm going to talk about it. There's lots of things we want to do. We kind of can't say we're going to do them until we've actually got a new board of directors to agree how we're going to do them. But the direction of travel is just whatever the Germans and the French do to build that grassroots local. We had an event on Friday. Joe, how was the event at Anglia on Friday night? Let's talk a bit about that.
It was brilliant, because the fact that the majority of the people there, I didn't know the name of, which is exactly what you want. You know, for years you go to national tournaments. I know everyone there. There might be one new. I mean, one or two new players, and that would be it. And that was good. But this is, we're opening up to new channels now, and you're getting new people now all the time. Every time I pop along to one of these fun things, there's someone else. There's a couple of other people I've never met. I don't know who they are, and they're coming back. That's the main thing. Or if they can't go back to everyone, they're staying active, and they're actually seeing these things, and they might come to, maybe not every single one, but they'll come to one every 2-3 months, and they'll hopefully start becoming more regular, because I think it's something that I've seen people have a great time and people really enjoy. And it's not, I think Monster DYP is such a wonderful format that, God, I wish we'd have done that in the past. But it just means that you don't have, the likes of me and you playing together and beating everyone. You're playing with different partners all the time. And some games you might get beaten, but other games you're going to play with someone really good, and then you're going to beat other good players, and you're going to, it's going to be fun, and it's not, not overly serious. You're not having people take excessive timeouts. You're not having arguments over all the things that have existed in any competitive thing. It's not exclusive to table football that national tournaments sometimes got a bit messy and there'd be personal things. That is the nature of any amateur sport. I've seen it in many things, but these things, because it's in a snooker club, and it's relaxed, and it's fun, and it's great. So absolutely the model. And you're sort of saying of following the French and German model. It's far beyond that. I mean, it's almost not embarrassing, but you almost like think that, why on earth haven't we? It's basically the approach of literally everything, like any community-based activity, sport, anything like that. It's like, if you quite want to pick up yoga, and you do yoga with other people, you don't travel to Coventry to go do yoga. There is every Thursday a yoga class, 30 seconds walk from me in a community space down here. You look it up, there will be hundreds across London, every single city. Any, football, table tennis, but it's not just sports, it's activities, it's things. You wouldn't get interested in something, doing it with someone, and then have to travel halfway across the country for anything else. That is
only to be allowed to do yoga for 5 minutes because you're not good enough, because you're the first yoga player in the room.
Exactly. It's ridiculous. That is not how you engage anyone with anything. It is quite frankly a miracle that we had the scene that we did, and it was largely because people came from their local scenes without intention. It was that Warwick, Oxford, Cambridge, Keele, the older groups, the people in Bristol, London scene around Bar Kick, would go together, and then it didn't matter so much. University of East Anglia, even for a while, and all these fun people over the years. And what we need to do is get back into the focus of, it's clubs, it's local clubs and things there, and that is create as many as we can.
And the question for all you guys out there is, it needs somebody to sit and seed it with all the different gifts that each person's been given, because we've got different gifts. So you look at who's been the seed that actually made the London scene happen for years and years and years is JP. That JP, by putting on those tournaments at Bar Kick, of course people went to Bar Kick anyway, but that little Bar Kick thing, and then everything else he's been doing everywhere else as well. I'm keeping Anglia going, but JP seeded that in the first place. Or what Katarzyna's doing in the Midlands, seeding that. Dave Cleal-Hill is now the seed in Manchester, but it's not just one person. It's then all the people who then cluster around it, who then call it and say, hey, let's play on Tuesday, let's go on Thursday, and it's not one person. It's like the snowball turns into a community. So how do we help? And people, some guys in Bedford came down and played here a few months ago. We've got a guy in Hull who I've been chatting to. There's some guys in Edinburgh. There's always people turning up, but how do we help that person or that group of people to turn into something and support it, not scare them away? Even Reese found this pub in Lincoln that's organising tournaments, and I've been chatting on Messenger. And I said, guys, next time you do a tournament, tell us, and we'll help you. I've introduced them to Kick It All. So how do we make that little thing in Lincoln turn into something without going and scaring them? No snakes. Go back to your experience at the Jeff Bryce tournament. One of the things you didn't say was no one wrecked me with a snake, because it was a no snake tournament. So, for everyone out there, how do you be accessible and don't scare people away and make them want to come back?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that even though we have tried that in the past, and, it's never that it was ignored and we didn't try to have clubs, but it was never gone about in the right fashion. It was never like, well, it would be nice to have some clubs. this, clubs exist, great, but it was unofficial. There was no effort made behind it. So, the new proposals of having BFA licensing through clubs, of if you want to play table football nationally in the UK, you have to be a member of a club, because everyone that plays is close to a table somewhere. Make a club.
Let me talk a little bit about that, because Reese is out there and Reese has got views. So that doesn't mean that being a club member is a barrier, because we're all about accessibility. It's just more that everyone the BFA recognises, because for you to be dealing with the BFA, it's because you're playing in a tournament that's going to be a BFA recognised tournament. If you've never come to a tournament before and the BFA club doing that tournament is Club A, then we're just going to say that you're a member of that club. So it's not a barrier. It's just a tag, but it just means that we then start to know who our communities are, so we can actually fertilise them and help them grow.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what the committee is here for. I mean, we would love to, and hopefully with this new model and, membership, we will get more people back involved, in the heyday of, the scene in the modern era, the circa 2010. There were so many people. It was the executive committee, but then we also had, the tournament coordination committee, the group of people that would generally give their views on tournaments and help to promote them and make sure that schedules were sound and all those sorts of things. Then we had some people which we've lost, because we've lost the scene a lot, and the BFA, which it's a weird thing when you say the BFA, because I think people have treated the BFA as this concrete thing, which it isn't. I mean, it's a limited company now, but the BFA has always been the people behind it that have chopped and have changed and, have had loads of people and none. It's individuals. It's us at the moment. It's not like a thing. It is a group of people trying their best. Yeah. But we right now are here to help in absolutely any way we can. We've got, I think, we've got definitely a different skill set than we had. You go back 12 years and, there were students and recent postgrads and things filling up the committee who were all quite naive in relative things. Now, we're all, 30s plus. We've got experience. We've done things in our career. We can generally help, clubs. We're looking at things holistically. We're not just saying you have to be a member of a club, set it up, off you go on your own. We are there to say, well, what's your area? Where can you promote to? How can we promote to, these areas? And, we're there to work with people to do
a couple of interesting things are, so we've got, there's two things we've asked people to do. First, we've asked people to vote on winding up the current BFA. And transferring the current BFA to the new one. Now, what's interesting is the people who voted. There's a lot of the people who voted who people who are watching this don't know who they are, because these are the random people who from sometimes buy £10 worth of BFA regular membership and have voted, but they're not people who come to tournaments. I know who they are, but they're not in the clique, right? Which is really cool. Secondly, we've asked people to become company members of the new BFA. And again, the people who are signing up for that are not little people at the centre who are pro players. It's which is really interesting. I put a plea in a newsletter last time I wrote to say, does anyone really know about how to fix websites? Because our one needs a redo. And someone wrote to me who's on the mailing list, again, who's not anywhere near the centre at all, who has watched this show actually, and said, I'm a web developer and I'd love to help, by the way. And Darren, thank you for volunteering to help us. He's a really cool guy and he's going to help us up. But that's just if you ask people to volunteer and bring the skills they've got. So I'm Dave Zeman, who's out there. So Dave and I have been talking about what the simplified rules are going to look like, because that's the thing. Dave, is giving his genius to make the rules the best that he can for world table football, because that's the best of Dave. So a question for everyone is, what's the best to me that I can do to bring to take table football out to people in the UK?
Yeah, exactly. I think this is, to people out there, that I think in the past, there's always been a bit of pigeonholing when people have wanted to support the BFA. There's been someone's put their hand up and say, I'd love to help. And it'd be great. Okay, come on to the executive committee and try to run national tournaments. And that is just a terrible approach, and I think, we need to put that message across now that, it's always, this is what I do for a job. I'm in philanthropic fundraising, but, if a supporter comes, then I'm not going to say, well, you're the closest person to us, so you be chair of our development board, because as we do that, it's like, no, what is that person? What are their skills? What are their interests? Let's find the right way for them to support the charity. And this is the same thing here of everyone in the community has some unique skills, some unique passion, something that you love doing and love to talk about and of that. And this is what we would love. And this is, if we are going to grow the game, we will get there, whatever, but it'll be much easier and it'll be better the more people we have involved. And we want, the people to come forward and say, you know what, I love this. I'd love to have a local club down my area. But actually, I don't really want to go find a venue for a table, but I quite like this. I'm quite good at social media. I spend a lot of time on Instagram or something like that. Okay, great. We will get you promoting in the right things in the right area. We'll give you the text. We'll give you what to do. We'll put you in the right direction. And go do that. And that can be for literally anything. We will find ways that you can enjoy being involved with the BFA. And this is...
Sorry, you mentioned, you're good at philanthropic fundraising, and one of the things we'd like to do next year is the ITSS program called 100 Tables for Schools. Now, fortunately, we have an official partner which specialises in providing sports equipment to schools. Joe, one of the things you could bring to the party is a little bit about fun. And that initiative is literally find someone who wants to fund the buying of a table, find a school that wants a table, put them together, and we've got John May out there who's also got fundraising technology. So it's sort of it's putting things together. Louise, watching out in Dublin, has put a lovely comment in. Norm built up a really good scene in Dublin until COVID killed it. A base of 20 people, as Joe mentioned earlier. It was always about fun. Good players never played together. Amateur and beginner competitions. Louise, I played with you guys a few years ago, and I fully concur. I had a fantastic evening with a lovely bunch of people from Indians and Portuguese and Brazilians and Irish guys, of course, and British guys. It was fantastic. That lovely spirit you guys had in Dublin. I hope you get it back again. Great community in Ireland. If anyone ever gets to go over there,
and you will get it back because Louise and Norm are some of the nicest people you could ever meet in life. Like, they're fun to be around. Why wouldn't one you go to a bar and play some table football with them? It's brilliant. I know things haven't been easy with COVID, and I've seen stuff with the Glow Bar and stuff, but you will, and that's the real resource that we have are the brilliant people in this community. And I think we've approached things in the wrong way in the past, of almost like demanded that everyone should help out, that this wouldn't happen without volunteers, so it is a requirement you have to. And no, it's not. The requirement is for anyone who plays is to do it for whatever reason you want and to have fun doing it. But there is always a way that we can find that do something and you can have more fun. You can do more things that you like. And, if that is, you can give 5 minutes a year, or you can give 10 hours a week. It is everything that will. It is like any non-profit organization. It is built on the back of, commitments at multiple levels across a broad spectrum.
Couple of things, and I'm going to go somewhere. So Louise asked a question about I'm going to have my first go answer. What do you think about Tornado pulling out of ITSF? Louise, what I would say, and anyone watching, is that just because Mary Moore stuck a post on Facebook doesn't mean anything's official. And I'm on the ITSF executive committee. Again, if I did know something, I wouldn't say it, but one would imagine that the ITSF and Tornado and the US Table Soccer Organization would be the people who would be making announcements on that. I think the one thing we could all understand in the Mary Moore post is it's bloody expensive to get. How many tables would you need to get to? You need 100 tornadoes. Each one's worth $1,000. $100,000 worth of tornadoes to get them from Fort Worth to France is really hard, given all the shipping rates have gone up by 3 times. But Mary Moore's not the right person to speak. Just someone asked me this from the BFA perspective. Does that change anything? No. Our official, we talked about this in our shows before. The UK has got an American table tradition and an Italian table tradition, and that's it doesn't matter if we're members of the ITSF or anything. We're going to keep playing on our American tables. We're going to keep playing on our Italian tables, and that's what we've got. The UKC, Joe, which you and I are going to be putting on in about a month's time. Which kind of sets up a bit. Just our last thing to talk about is UKC and all things like that.
Yeah.
Where shall we start with you?
I know. I mean, it's, from a very honest point of view, it's quite frankly not something neither me or you want to be doing. I mean, it's not, top of our priority list, but it matters a huge amount to very important people in our community. You know, a lot of our community are pro players, and this is why we're doing it. And you know, and but it's an opportunity within that you know, yeah, it is World Cup qualification, but it is still a great opportunity to bring our player base together, to have people at a competitive event, but a fun event as well. You know, we talked about, you know, 2-ball, rollerball in there, and you know, yeah, this is a different kind of event if it's going to be more serious than any other. But you know, what we have to do is not look at things of when it's grassroots or it's, you know, national level. It's all the same. It's the game, and it's, you know, and then taking advantages within that. So what I would love to do is for, you know, us to have a really fun event that is challenging in many ways, because, you know, there are an awful lot of events now. In the 33 or something that you can qualify for, which is a logistical nightmare to try to run a qualification tournament with that many events. And this is why that we have basically a 2-stage pre-registration, and that we are asking people if the pre-registration is also a register of interest. So it closes on the Friday, the 26th of November, the first round. So any event where we have fewer than 4 pre-registrations, those people will automatically qualify, and we won't run the event at the UKC because there is no need to. And we will focus on the events where we have more players in them, so they can free up the schedule. We can try to give the longest formats we can. We can try to do what is best for the players in these circumstances, you know. And we've tried doing this to give people notice as well, because I know that, you know, some key players, you know, Louise in this group, you know, getting over from Dublin to London, I mean, is not super straightforward. You know, and if there is an opportunity for you to, you know, pre-register for, you know, I don't know, senior mixed or something like that, then do so. And then, you know, if it doesn't happen at the UKC, then great, you qualify. And likewise, all these, you know, separate events, you know, Jody in the south of France as well. And we really appreciate it. It's, I think, very challenging, particularly in the last, you know, 18 months or so. There haven't been tournaments, but we still need to submit qualifiers, and there is no perfect way to do that. So, you know, we are, I think with this, we've tried our best. I think in the future, we're going to look at how does the UKC work? How does qualifying work? But it's going on the back of the year that we've had. I think kind of this is the only way to do it, but we're trying to do it in a way that's best for all our players, because I said I know, even though, you know, we are focused on grassroots stuff, but I know how important it is for so many. So, you know, we are trying to do our best with it, basically. But it's an event where we hope we'll get a really good attendance. We'll hope we'll have some great competitive foosball. You know, it's the highest standard event in the calendar, you know, on paper, that the best players in the UK, of which the UK has fantastic players, you know, particularly across, you know, men's and senior, but, you know, the women's game as well. I know that we've lost a few players, and, you know, and obviously our idea to grow the game is to focus on, you know, groups like that, you know, women's, disabled, you know, in minority communities. And these are things that we really want to target, and get more people in these groups, because table football is so accessible to so many. But, you know, there are fantastic players across the range that we would love to come together for this event, not just to, you know, try to qualify for, you know, the Worlds, but to have a great time, you know. And I think everything within that, and I guess that, I mean, the other sort of elephant in the room then is COVID related stuff. So, you know, of which, you know, we have had private messages along all the spectrum, basically.
Well, you know that when everyone's moaning, you know, you've got the policy right, because we've been, you know, being shot in this year and you're being shot at in this year. So
exactly, you know, it's either, you know, we're not doing anywhere enough, or that what we're doing, it basically makes us fascists, you know, and it's all these things. And at the heart of it, what we're trying to do is, you know, the last year and a half, 2 years nearly now, for so many people has been a very scary time. Like, you know, I know it is different for so many, and there are so many conflicting views over it. You know, people have had their livelihoods decimated by the pandemic and the nature of things, and so many people have had incredibly hard times through lockdowns, and, you know, but I think most of us know someone that has been severely affected. Lives have been lost through this, and it is a it is a horrible thing that, the UK government is not helping with, I think, is a universal thing. So we don't have strong policies to go against. We're having, someone said, well, they did this in Germany. It's like, but that's because it's law in Germany. And they can say that if it's not the tournament. We are a very small volunteer organization. We have tried our best. I have spent hours reading through so many policies, but they don't exist very much in the UK. And, we know things are important. We know masks, we know ventilation, we know vaccinations but there is only a degree of which we can enforce any of these due to the nature of laws in the UK.
I was reflecting on the COVID approach we've got, because some of you know I'm involved in the care home, actually I was at the care home today. And the BFA UKC tournament policy is the same as a care home policy. Which is, you want to go in a care home in the UK, you need to stick the thing up your nose in the back of your throat and show a negative LFT, exactly the same as the UKC. You're strongly encouraged to be vaccinated, same as the UKC. And if you're going to be up close with somebody in a care home, which, that's called personal care, you should stick a mask on. In our case, if you want to get up close and someone's not comfortable, then they ask you to stick a mask on, just like if someone asks you to stick a condom on. It's the right thing to do. Now, I'm not expecting that many people are going to be asking people to put masks on. This is just, in the end, it's just the way we're setting it up. And I think actually it's going to be fine.
I think it will be. But I think it's important to put across that, certainly from my mentality of we've been talking about what the right and the wrong thing to do is, and those are almost questions that are redundant, because there is no right or wrong. But it is important. I always feel that we make our decisions trying to be kind and trying to not look at things for a particular. I think particularly with online media and everything as it is these days, everything is so polarized from and so toxic from even sides when the best intentions get skewed. And as I said, we're not a large organization. With there are so many reasons why people can't do certain things. There are very perfectly legitimate reasons why someone cannot be vaccinated. There are, I was working at Cancer Research UK, and this was a big, during the first wave of the pandemic, there are people, particularly with blood cancers, that just can't if you're immunosuppressed, and the vaccine's not going to be as effective. And, as an amateur group, we can't start enforcing these things. And we have to think that, we have to be open to everyone, but try to do our best, that it's relying on decency, or we're allowing people to take a test 24 hours beforehand. I know they're not super pleasant, but it's 15, 30 seconds of slight unpleasantness for the sake of trying to keep everyone safe. And also, I will point out that, it's going to be a private event, so there's no football going on, there's going to be no one else. And also the bar staff have agreed to be tested as well. So, it is not just a case of, but also all we can do is try to limit risk. And by asking everyone to test, by asking people to be sensible and decent and not go down a political spectrum or anything like that, it is at the heart of it, the UKC is about these pro players, and we've known each other for years. And everyone fundamentally is a good person. I really believe that. And it's just about trying to be decent to one another, let's all try to look after each other. Yes, it's an inconvenience, and I know there are many views, and I can only see things through my experience, and my experience is not all encompassing. But that's just what we're trying to do. We're just trying to be kind and decent and ask people to do the same, so that we can do the thing that we all really like doing, getting together, having a laugh, playing table football, and for this in a very serious end, and something that matters to a lot of people. And I love seeing the passion of people to qualify, for not, and those that haven't qualified before but are on the edge and could do. Since the last UK Championships, there are new up and coming players. There are those that, I wouldn't discount yourself, Will. You're a cracking player. It'd be great if you could qualify. The likes of Salvatore in London.
Who are you playing with in doubles?
Yeah, exactly. You're playing with someone that you're going to have to carry. But you're very capable of carrying anyone. So,
Salvatore's a beast. Salvatore's looking partners at the moment.
There's all these players that could do it. And, and I remember when I first qualified for singles and doubles, 2016 UKC, whatever that was, it was like, oh, well, great. I've gone and beaten these really good players. And that's pretty cool. I might get to go away and play against the best players in the world in this thing. And that's just what we want. We want everyone to have the opportunity to do that in incredibly difficult circumstances with what's going on in the world. And So yeah, we are trying our best, and I think there is we have no agenda other than to run as fair qualifying tournament as we can. That it's going to be the best experience for everyone there.
I'm going to put a couple of bits of Will's thoughts on this as well. Some of you guys will have seen we did a show a while ago, where we looked back at 50 years of champions in the UK, starting with John Crowpatch, who I'd spoken with that week, 1970. All the way up. And this is our 51st year of competitive foosball in the UK. And this is, to me, it's nice. It's a qualifying tournament for da-da-da-da-da-da. It's actually not the most important thing. It's the UK Championship. Now, we don't, think of the Premier League. The point of Liverpool wants to win the Premier League because they want to win the Premier League, not because they want to qualify for Europe, right? So this is, anyone out there, the big thing is about being the UK champion. So, at the moment, we just have a big rung. This is like the top rung of the ladder is the UK Championship. And what we're going to be building is what are the rungs that go up to the national championship? What's regional look like? What's local look like? What do the Germans and the French do? They've got those rungs. So you can start in Ross and Way, going into a no snake tournament in Hereford, and the ladder works its way all the way up to the UK Championships. And then the rung above it is going to the World Championships as well. Another thing I'll pick is, and this is going to everyone out there, how do we make this UK Championships fun? Now, how do we make it so everyone coming to that tournament feels like Joe did when he went to that Jeff Bryce tournament, that it's fun? One of the things that struck me, why do we have loads of people coming to our tournament on Friday night here? And why is JP getting loads of people coming to his tournament? Eventbrite is an amazing tool. You stick your tournaments on Eventbrite and people find it much better than blooming Facebook. So I'm going to stick the Friday night DYP on Eventbrite. I'm going to stick two ball rollerball on an Eventbrite, and we're going to have some complete randoms going to walk in, I hope. And that will be so not just it being hardcore serious people, but actually making it that fun, crazy, zany feel as well. So my question, my appeal out to everyone watching is let's just think about how we make it zany and fun for everyone as well as it being serious foosball. That's my little bit of a rant over. Let's just pick out a few. There's been some good banter because Istvan has been waving his hand. And if anyone knows, Istvan's also posted a picture recently of his other hand. So Istvan, the hand looked okay, but Istvan says my left hand because he's almost cut his finger off on his right hand. So hi, Istvan. Dave enjoyed your polemic on COVID. Thank you, Dave. And Louisa says, if it wasn't for mixed, could you have held qualifications at separate times to avoid people mixing seniors, open and women's? No, simply because it's a completely horrendously difficult task to organise any tournament, Louise.
We have tried that. So Sunday senior events were largely meant to be separate from, obviously, the men's events are going to have the most entrants based on...
The busy days are Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. Busy Saturday. So seniors and things were Sunday, and then the classic doubles was meant to be later, so that there would be seniors are obviously the higher risk as a general rule could do their events first thing, and if they didn't want to go to classic, if they wanted to keep their risks as low as possible, then they could leave later after their events. So, but it is very hard to fit in a lot and keep people completely separate within the time and the resources we have. In an ideal world, we run the tournament over a week and we do every single thing separately, but then we're not going to have people take days off work on a Wednesday and travel to London for that. And, there are so many different ways we could run this in the future. But right now, we completely understand that it's not perfect by any means, but we've just tried to do what we can do under the circumstances to make things as fair as possible for everyone, which is a massive challenge.
It's really difficult. It's really difficult to organise a tournament, to find a venue, to get the tables out. It costs loads of money to get the tables out. It costs 90 quid an hour for the guys who move them. Louise, I originally read it, I think, separate dates, so rather than separate times, as Joe said. It's just really difficult to make it all work, given we're trying to do 33 qualifying events and keep everybody happy. And this is just kind of, it's what we can do given the organising committee, which is me and Joe and Mike Cohen and Paul Martin, and a football club that has only got one date, which we can use. So Louise says, fair enough. And Luke, we would love to see you. If you can get over, it'd be really cool. Another little thing for Louise, by the way, and I have said this to Norm, but the Ransom Sporting Goods would love to have a conversation with the Irish foosball community about Roberto sport in Ireland. They have got a sales guy, a distribution unit in Ireland, and they want to talk to somebody. So message me if you'd like me to put you in touch with their guy in Ireland. I know there was some good banter about was it a good table or not. If you've not played a New Revolution table, I think New Revolution table is really fun. I think it's a great. I was playing on one the other day. I think it's really fun, and we're going to have 3 of them at the UKC, by the way, along with the Cameron, who's the guy at Roberto's Ransom Sports, who's the table football guy. So it's going to be fun. If you're fence sitting, do come to the UKC. It's going to be a load of fun.
Yeah, I think actually, sorry, I was going to say one final point. Sorry, actually going back to Louise's, which is a perfectly legitimate, a very good question to ask. But I think this highlights how important it is for the community to engage with us at all times. And I think that there's maybe been a little bit now of, well, when people see what decisions have been made, and then it's like, well, what about this? What about this? And, we've had every single conflicting view you could possibly have on formats and COVID stuff and everything come in. But the more people engage with us, the more viewpoints we'll have and the more things we'll be able to consider. Like we, are going to make mistakes because we are looking through things through our limited experience. The more people we have involved with the BFA, the better the range of views we're going to have. Dave gave to us fairly early before we'd announced anything to express, his views about, COVID and seniors and stuff. And our door is always open to engage with people. And that doesn't mean we can do everything everyone says, because then would be completely conflicting.
Anybody.
But
Dave had the community together. It wasn't just Dave. We had a consultation with the seniors about the over 50, over 63 issue, which is complicated.
Exactly. But, I think the more people talk to us, and we need to get better at that as well. So, I said this in a private email to someone that came across, and that there's learnings across the board from the UKC. It's that, yes, we've tried to make efforts to keep our door open and get people communicating with us, but clearly we need to do things better on that front so that more people engage with us regularly. But then hopefully for the community, then it's a sign that, being involved with us, and that doesn't mean huge amounts of time, but that's just being there as a sounding board, being there as someone that we know we can run ideas past before things go public, someone that can contribute is going to be really valuable. So hopefully we can all learn from this and do things better going forward, because that's all we're trying to do. We're just trying to do things better every time and learn from what we've done and do better in the future. And I think that's the general philosophy of all of us on the BFA.
And my last plug, guys, is in the world where we're a company limited by guarantee, where we have company members, the way for you to do that and have a voice in the BFA is to be a company member, because we all have votes. So if you haven't filled in, you've all had the email that says, yes, I'd like to become, and Dave's email said to me, can this not be done automatically? And I was like, Dave, I can't sign up for you for your behalf, but it is a Google form. So you just need to click and say, yes, and yes, and then submit, right? So go and check your inboxes. If you haven't got it, send me a message. Please, vote to move the old BFA to new BFA, and please sign up to be a company member. It doesn't cost anything, and that's how we're going to run ourselves in the future. Joe, we've gone past an hour and a half, and I think on a Sunday night it's a school night, so we should probably finish. Thank you very much for spending your Sunday night and your whiskey with us. It's very fun. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it's always a pleasure, Will. It is. And, anything we can do to engage with the community, get out there a little bit more, I think it's a good thing. So yeah.
Now, I always say to people, I'll see you on the table, but partner, you and I got to do some training. But in 2 weeks' time in Anglia Grove, we're doing a UKC warm-up on a Sunday afternoon. If you're not doing anything, bring your partners along, guys. And if you're in London, let's all train and get ready for this great tournament we're going to have in a month's time.
Yeah, okay. I see many people there.
We've got some. This is where everyone says thanks. So thanks, Mike Russell. Thanks everyone else. We've still got 7 people out there. Grant Garen January is also been watching. Hi Grant. Who else? Daniel Clavijo as well. Reese is saying thanks. Mike says great show. Thank you. I'll close the line now and let you guys get on with your Sunday evening. Dave says thanks, Joe. Well, thanks, Dave. Thanks for being with us. Mike Cohen, bye. Good show. Cheers, guys. I'll close and wish you all a lovely Sunday evening.
Cheers, folks.
Cheers. Don't go yet, Joe.
No.